Most people think railway stations are safe. They're public, brightly lit, and cameras are everywhere. Even late at night, there's usually someone around security, maintenance workers, or late commuters just trying to get home. That's what I believed too, until the night I realized how easily all that structure can be used against you. My name's Daniel, and this happened 2 winters ago. I was working the overnight shift as an assistant station supervisor at a mid-sized railway station just outside Chicago. The late shift is totally different from the day crowd. By 11 p.m., the noise just dies down. The announcements echo longer, and the whole building feels bigger than it really is. My job was mostly procedural monitoring platform access, handling delayed trains, logging maintenance issues, and doing hourly walkthroughs. Nothing dramatic, nothing unpredictable. Railways run on schedule and repetition. That's the point. That particular night, the temperature had dropped sharply. The wind cut between the platforms like a razor blade, and snow was drifting through the open-air sections near Track 4. By about 12:40 a.m., the final outbound commuter train had already departed. We only had 2 more freight pass-throughs scheduled before 3 a.m. The station wasn't officially closed, but it was practically empty, and that's when I noticed him. The man on Platform 3. He didn't look unusual at first glance. Mid-30s, wearing a heavy coat, no luggage. He was just standing near the edge of the yellow safety line. But what stood out wasn't his presence, it was his stillness. Most late-night passengers pace around, check their phones, or adjust their bags. This guy, he didn't move. He wasn't even looking down the track for an approaching train. He was facing the station building. He was facing me. I told myself not to overthink it. It's a public space. People stand around. It's normal. Still, out of habit, I logged his presence in my daily report and continued my patrol. When I came back about 10 minutes later, he hadn't shifted his position, not even slightly. That's when the first announcement happened. A train arrival alert chimed through the station speakers, automated and precise, stating that an inbound train was approaching Track 3. But that was impossible. There was no inbound train scheduled for another hour, and definitely not on that track. I immediately went to the system terminal inside my office to check. No update, no override. The digital board hanging above the platform still showed no scheduled arrivals. But the announcement had played, and when I looked back toward Platform 3 through the office window, the man was gone. Just gone. No footsteps in the light snow. No visible movement. Just empty concrete and the quiet drift of white flakes. I stepped outside right away, scanning both ends of the platform. No one. The stairwell was clear. The elevators were inactive. The only tracks I could see were dark and empty. I told myself it was just a weird coincidence, that he'd left quietly and I'd somehow missed it. Then the freight line signal shifted. A red maintenance signal on Track 3 flickered briefly to green, just for a second, then went back to red. That kind of change doesn't happen randomly. The signals are isolated systems. They don't just glitch casually like a computer program. My radio crackled to life. "Supervisor, you clear on 3? A freight operator asked, his voice staticky. I froze. "There's no inbound on 3, I replied. There was a pause. "Copy that," the operator said slowly. "Because my panel just showed a green clearance on your end." My pulse started climbing. Signals don't self-authorize. They're physical systems tied to track occupancy and centralized control. Someone had either triggered it or interfered with it. That's when I saw him again. This time, he was on Platform 1, standing near the emergency access gate that leads to the service corridor. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at the track signal box mounted near the platform edge, just watching it. I started moving toward him slowly, keeping my distance, but deliberately closing the space between us. "Station's closed to boarding," I called out. "The last passenger train already left." He didn't respond. When I got within about 15 feet, he turned his head just enough to meet my eyes. "You almost cleared it," he said calmly. "Cleared what?" I asked. "The line," he said. The way he said it made my stomach drop. It wasn't threatening, not excited. It was just observational, like he was commenting on the weather. I told him he needed to leave the platform if he wasn't traveling. He nodded slightly, but still didn't move. Instead, he just glanced toward the signal box again. And that's when I heard a faint, metallic click from near the base of the control housing. I didn't see his hands move. I didn't see anything change, but the maintenance light flickered again. I backed away and radioed Central Dispatch immediately, requesting confirmation on signal integrity for Track 3. The response came fast this time, and I could hear the tension in the dispatcher's voice. "Hold your position. Do not clear any track. We're seeing ghost toggles." Ghost toggles. That's not an official term. It's what technicians call unexplained signal changes. When the system shows an input that shouldn't exist. When I looked up again, the man was gone. Not walking away, just gone. Security swept the entire station within minutes. They found nothing. No trespassers. No damage to the signal housing. The cameras showed him standing still, and briefly obscured by a flicker of snow distortion, and when the frame cleared, he was no longer there. There was no recorded exit through the gates. No footage of him on the stairwells. He had simply vanished. Later that night, the maintenance crew discovered something subtle but deliberate. The access panel near Track 3 had been loosened, not opened. Just loosened enough that the vibration from a passing train could shift the internal contacts and create a false signal. It meant someone didn't need to stand there long. They just needed the right timing. 2 weeks later, a nearby station reported the exact same signal interference pattern during their overnight hours. No suspect was ever identified. No official explanation was ever given. I don't work nights anymore. And now, when I stand on a platform and hear an unexpected announcement echo through an empty station, I don't just assume it's a glitch. I wonder who's standing just outside the light, waiting for a system to listen to them instead of us. People think the dangerous part of a railway station is the train itself, the tracks, the edge of the platform, the obvious risks. What they don't to think about is the waiting room, the place where everyone slows down just enough to be studied. My name's Carla, and this happened 3 winters ago when I was working overnight security at a downtown railway terminal that never fully closes. The volume drops, but the building doesn't sleep. There's always someone killing time, a delayed passenger, a couple arguing quietly near the vending machines, someone pretending to nap in a corner seat. You learn to read people quickly. Who's stranded? Who's intoxicated? Who's harmless? Most of the time, it's predictable. That night, around 1:40 a.m., I noticed a teenage girl sitting alone in the far corner of the main waiting area. She couldn't have been older than 16. Hoodie pulled tight, backpack at her feet. She wasn't using her phone. She wasn't crying. She just sat there stiffly, like she'd been told not to move. What made me notice her wasn't her age. It was the man sitting 3 rows behind her. He wasn't close enough to talk to her, but he was angled toward her. Every time she shifted, he shifted. Every time she glanced up, he looked down. And when I walked past him during my patrol, his eyes followed me the entire way. I slowed down near her bench and asked if she was waiting for someone. She nodded quickly. "Dad," she said. Her voice was too fast, too rehearsed. I asked which train. She hesitated. The late one. There was no late one scheduled. I didn't press her. Instead, I walked over to the man behind her and asked for his ticket. He smiled immediately. Friendly, cooperative. Produced a valid ticket for a 3:15 a.m. departure. Completely legitimate. He wasn't breaking any rules, but when I stepped away, he leaned forward slightly in his seat, and the girl's shoulders tightened. That was enough for me. I repositioned myself near the ticket desk with a clear line of sight to both of them. Over the next 20 minutes, nothing obvious happened. He didn't approach her, didn't speak to her, didn't even move closer. But he didn't leave either. At 2:05 a.m., she stood up suddenly and walked toward the restroom corridor. He waited 5 seconds. Then he stood too. I intercepted him before he reached the hallway. Restrooms are closed for cleaning, I told him. They weren't. He paused, recalculated, and smiled again. No problem. He returned to his seat, but now I knew. I walked into the restroom corridor and found the girl standing just inside the doorway, not entering, not leaving, just waiting. I asked her quietly if she knew the man behind her. She shook her head immediately. He's been on the train since Pittsburgh, she whispered. He changed cars when I did. My stomach dropped. She told me she'd switched seats twice. Each time he'd reappeared within view, never talking, never touching, just there. That's when I realized this wasn't about breaking rules. It was about proximity, about patience. I escorted her to the security office and called her father using the emergency contact she provided. He confirmed she was traveling alone for the first time. He also confirmed no one was supposed to meet her until her arrival. While we waited, I checked camera footage from earlier that night. The man hadn't entered through the main doors. He'd arrived on the same train she had. And in every frame she appeared, he was somewhere behind her. Not right next to her, never obvious. Always positioned just far enough to look incidental. When additional officers arrived, we approached him calmly and asked a few routine questions. He answered all of them smoothly, claimed he'd never seen her before, said he was just waiting for his departure. Nothing illegal, nothing provable. But when we informed him we'd be documenting the interaction due to a minor safety concern, his composure cracked for just a second. Not anger, calculation. He stood up and said he'd catch a later train, and he left, not toward the platform, not toward the exit we expected, but through the side street entrance that had no cameras outside. The girl's father arrived 40 minutes later. As she left, she turned back and said something I still think about. He never talked to me, she said. He just wanted me to know he was there. That was 3 years ago. I've handled fights, thefts, trespassers, all straightforward, clear motives, clear actions. But I've never forgotten how quiet that waiting room felt that night. Because the worst part wasn't that he broke a rule. It's that he didn't need to.